Hello, and welcome back to Rhetoric with Shakia. I'm Shakia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about Suddenly Amish Season 1, Episode 7. And Episode 7 starts off with Judah's mom, I believe her name is Kiara, and Kiara is not here for it. She keeps asking Judah, son, why are you here? She said, whatever it is you got to find, did you find it already? Was it found? She's like, look, I don't even think we should be here. She said, yeah, the scenery is nice, but I don't know. It might seem nice on the surface. And so she's like, I just don't understand why you would want to be here. You got things to do and accomplish. Why do you want to be here? Just not very supportive, at least in the beginning, about Judah's decision to join the Amish. They're all having dinner. She answers her phone.
But like every day becomes a little bit easier.
At the dinner table, and I was looking, I said, girl, now you don't have to be Amish to know you shouldn't be checking your phone at the dinner table. We don't do that. So everybody's looking around because number one, they can't even have their phones. And now here she is, not only with her phone, but checking it while they are eating at the dinner table. So they were like, So Judah's like, Mom, you gotta get off this phone. And as she's on the phone, they must have asked her, like, girl, what you doing? Where you at? She said, I'm with some Amish people. I don't know why, but that tickled me. So she's asking questions. James is being weird. And even Alan noticed it. And Alan said, this is another example of how he is just maybe not making, and I'm paraphrasing here, but making decisions that are going to be helpful for the English. He seems a little combative, just weird to me. Kiara said that it's been really hard not having Judah with her, not having access to him, not being able to talk to him, to see him, to call him on the phone. She said this is really difficult. They're really close. And she said she did the best she could as a single mom. One of the reasons why she's so protective over Judah, is because she said there was an incident where a bullet grazed his neck and he shouldn't even be here. And she wants to be able to see him and make sure he's okay. Perhaps, and I'm not going to diagnose, but there's this level of nervousness or anxiety now that he's so far away from where she is. And so that's difficult for her to protect him. But also at the end of the day, Judah is an adult now. He gets to make his own decisions. And whether he was a child or an adult, it is so difficult to protect people from all the things we want to protect them from, which is unfortunate. And so they asked her whether or not she was going to stay at the house. And she said, absolutely not. And so she was going to a hotel. And I think Judah said, well, she's probably at the same hotel that Matt and Kendra were at. And so she does spend some time on the farm, though, and she's on the scooter. Judah is cheering her on in the background, and she does walk the grounds with him, and she's listening to him, but she's not, like I said, she's not very supportive about this decision, especially in the beginning. Judah was really excited to show her the animals and to chop wood. And she was just like, we ain't never chopped no wood a day in our lives. She's like, this is just not for me. Eventually she leaves. And then the next day she comes back and she's like, I'm trying one more time to just take my son with me. I want my son. She was also asking about phones when she was at the dinner table with her phone. And she said, so y'all don't have your phones? And they were like, oh, we just installed a phone shanty, which AKA is a phone booth. And she just was looking like, you have got to be kidding me. And Judah was really proud. He helped to build these things that he feels useful, and that in his life, his regular life, he didn't feel of use to anybody. He's proud of who he's becoming. And eventually the mom recognizes that. And she says she is also proud of the man he's becoming. And even though she can't fully understand his decision, she is going to respect it. They hug on each other. They exchange I love yous. And it seemed to be a genuine moment between the two of them. And she did not drag him off the farm. I think that was her original plan. But she said, this is his decision. And at this point in the episode, they mentioned that Reckoning Day, I think, is 4 days away. So I imagine the next episode, we will see the decision that Judah ultimately makes. As he was walking away from his mom, though, he said this was the hardest decision that he's ever had to make. Not going with her choosing to stay on the farm. So we will see what his final decision is when it comes to joining the Amish. And as the episode continues, we see Billy Joe and Esmeralda with Sarah, and Sarah is showing them how to make sanitary napkins, how to make pads. And so Billy Joe is just grossed out by it. She said, ew. It's 4 layers of fabric and towel stacked on top of each other and then sewn together. And Billy Joe is just like, ew. So as they're making one, she goes, oh, that one is for Esmeralda. That's probably her size. But Esmeralda actually has a different take on it. She says, look, these might actually be better for us. No chemicals, no dyes. They might be better for the environment. So she said after this experience, even if she doesn't stay with the Amish church, maybe she can recreate this at home. We also see that Esmeralda has a job off the farm. She works in a store and she's sweeping the floors, and we just see her sweeping away. She's sweeping the same spot. She said it gets really dusty, but I said, Esmeralda, I don't really see anything. You just keep moving the broom, but I don't see anything happening. She said, listen, her life outside of here, she has a master's degree and she works with children with autism. And she goes, I went from doing that to now sweeping floors, and it feels like kind of a thankless job. She also said because of the drama and the gossip and a thankless job, that it doesn't seem as if her life would be much different if she were to join the Amish. She's like, it's not very different from my everyday life. So she also seems to still be really conflicted about joining the Amish community. Actually, a lot of them are conflicted. Billy Joe, she gets so sick because of the heat. That's her number one concern. Her number one concern is not having an air conditioner. And she keeps bringing that up. Even when Judah mom was there at the dinner table, because obviously they talked about the heat and how hot it was. And Billy Joe was like, yeah, this is something that is just really, it's something that's hard to get used to. So she gets so sick that she ends up at the hospital. And they let her go to the hospital because they said for very serious emergencies, then the Amish can go see English doctors. Otherwise, they handle certain medical concerns within their own community. But Billy Joe was just so ill that they decided it was best for her to go to the hospital and to be seen. She, I believe, had heat exhaustion. She was dehydrated. They gave her fluids and all that. Judah came by, and Judah stayed with her the entire time. She was really grateful for Judah. She also said, actually, she and Judah at different points and their own confessionals mentioned how close they are to each other. And Judah said, she completes me. And it was just really nice to see a genuine friendship form on the show, form between these two, but they are tight and it looks like they have each other's backs. So Billy Joe, when she's talking about her experience at the hospital, she said she has people on the outside who wouldn't even show up and stay the way that Judah did. And so they have really grown this friendship between one another, and it's really cool to see. Speaking of their relationship, once Billy Joe is released from the hospital, they return to the farm. And as time moves forward, they share another meal together outside. It's the entire group, and they're sitting around the table. And of course, the conversation about decision day or reckoning day comes up because it is only days away now. And so Billy Joe says, look, I do have a concern. She said, there are people in my life who I love and who I care about, who are part of the LGBTQ community. Does that mean, and because they are, does that mean that they wouldn't be able to join the Amish church? Would they not be accepted here? And Alan said, no. He said, and we love them as people. He said essentially something to the effect of it not being godly or of God, something like that. And so Billy Joe is like, oh, that's disappointing. And she really has to weigh her decision. And as they're sitting there, Judah, we see in his confessional, he says he felt weak in that moment because he still hasn't shared the fact that he is bisexual with the Amish. And it also looks like he and Alan have been developing a really cool bond as well. And so I think maybe Judah, this secret is starting to get to him for different reasons. But anyway, so Judah said that he will also have to think about whether or not he can join the Amish or whether or not he would feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, this is something that's a part of him. This is part of his identity. If you can't be honest about that, or if they were to find out, then they would disown you. Again, another point where people are conflicted. Esmeralda also said she's seriously considering it, but she's just not sure. And Aaron, of course, Aaron brings up his hearing aids. He says this is a huge conflict for him. And if he's unable to have his hearing aids, that's going to absolutely impact his decision on whether or not he'll stay. Have you noticed that on the poster for the show, there are three of them: Esmeralda, Judah, and Aaron? And so I'm like, oh, wait a second. Are those the three that stay? Do they join the church? Is Judah accepted? Does he tell the truth about his sexuality? And do they accept him and allow him to join the church? Now, of course, secretly, or maybe not so secretly, and this is probably my bias, I'm like, I don't want any of them to join. I want them to all be able to think independently. But that's not up to me. It's their lives, and they get to live it how they see fit. I do wonder though, who will join the Amish church, who will be allowed to join and who will accept the invitation. Let's go back to James real quick. James, you can tell he likes power and control. He likes to have some say over another person. As they're talking about decision day, he's like, well, me and Alan, we can put in a good word for you if we see fit. And he's like, should we? And all this stuff. And again, Alan says he's seeing these things in James that he just does not agree with. And I think James is starting to annoy even Alan. So I felt a little validated in my dislike for James, because I'm like, there's something about him that just does not sit well with me. And I think it's because he enjoys being able to have so much say and control over other people. And that is what scares me about communities like this. When you have leaders who get to dictate how people operate and how they live their lives and how they should live their lives and how they should dress and how they should speak and how often they should pray and all of those different things, that can be abused. And I think in my last video, I said, there's something about James that just feels off. And I'm pretty sure that's the thing that feels off for me. His behavior is a representation of the things that I absolutely despise, which is when people think that they get to have control over another person. Don't do this. I won't accept this. And even Alan said in one of his confessional scenes while he was on the farm, he said that James comes from a different type of church, that he and his brother are a little bit different, not as I'm not going to use the word serious, but maybe not as strict as the church, not as conservative perhaps as the church that James comes from. But yeah, James, I think, is the embodiment of what I do not like. Systems and people that take away your ability to have agency and autonomy over your life. Because you can do a lot to somebody and a lot to their life when you have that much control. Because then part of what happens in communities like this too is we all are supposed to think the same. And you listen to your leader because I'm telling you it's coming from God. So if I'm telling you it's coming from God and God wants you to be this way and live this way, then it is the truth. And to go against that is to go against God. And then they damn you to hell. I'm going to stop here because I feel myself maybe getting a little too judgy, but it is what it is. And that's my truth. And I'm going to stick to it. And for these folk, I'm going to stand beside them. No, we're going to tune in next week and we're going to see what goes down on Decision Day, because you know who enters the picture on Decision Day, on Reckoning Day? Big Bishop. No, Vernon, the bishop. I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say. And will Judah finally reveal his secret? Hopefully they being the English, will continue to have each other's backs, because I'm anticipating an emotional day come Reckoning Day. That wraps this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad you're here. Let me know your thoughts. Who do you think will stay? What do you think about James and Esmeralda having a job outside of the farm, off the farm, and Judah still keeping his secret? I would say to himself, but no, because the English folk know. And Billy Joe, who needs air conditioning. What are your thoughts about the English and the Amish and Decision Day or Reckoning Day? Anyway, again, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really hope you come back for the next one. But until then, bye for now.